On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 in the morning, a single bomb killed 80,000 people in an instant. 3 days later, another bomb killed 40,000 more. The cities were Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the weapon was the atomic bomb. Those two explosions ended World War II, but they also opened the nuclear age, an era where humanity gained the power to destroy itself completely. But what if President Truman made a different choice? What if the atomic bombs were never dropped on Japan? Today, we're exploring the alternate timeline where the war ended differently, and how that single decision would reshape everything from 1945 to today. Let's start with what actually happened. By summer 1945, Japan was losing badly. Its navy was destroyed, its cities were being firebombed nightly, and the Soviet Union was about to declare war. But Japan's military leadership refused to surrender. They were preparing for Operation Ketsugo, the defense of the home islands. Every man, woman, and child would fight. The Japanese government was betting that they could make an invasion so costly that America would negotiate a peace deal instead of demanding unconditional surrender. American military planners were preparing Operation Downfall, the invasion of Japan. The plan called for landing on Kyushu in November 1945, then invading the main island of Honshu in spring 1946. Estimates predicted between 250,000 to 1 million American casualties. Japanese casualties, both military and civilian, could reach into the millions. It would be the bloodiest operation in human history. President Truman had another option, the atomic bomb. 2 bombs were ready. Intelligence suggested that dropping them might shock Japan into surrender without an invasion. On August 6th, he made the call. Hiroshima was destroyed. 3 days later, Nagasaki followed. On August 15th, Japan surrendered. The war was over. But in our alternate timeline, Truman hesitates. Maybe the test in New Mexico wasn't convincing enough. Maybe his advisors push harder for a demonstration blast instead of using it on a city. Maybe he decides the moral cost is too high. For whatever reason, the bombs stay in storage, and America proceeds with the invasion plan. November 1st, 1945. Operation Olympic begins. American forces land on Kyushu, and it's exactly as brutal as predicted. Japanese forces fight with suicidal determination. Kamikaze attacks sink dozens of ships. Every village becomes a fortress. Civilians, armed with bamboo spears and taught that Americans will torture and kill them, fight alongside soldiers. The beaches run red. By December, American forces control southern Kyushu, but at staggering cost. Casualties exceed 100,000. Back home, the American public is shocked. The war in Europe ended in May. Everyone thought the war was almost over. Now it looks like it could drag on for another year. Protests begin. Families who already lost sons in Europe are now losing more in Japan. Winter slows the fighting. Both sides regroup. Behind the scenes, there are quiet peace feelers, but Japan's military government won't accept unconditional surrender, and America won't negotiate. The war continues into 1946. The second invasion, Operation Coronet, launches in March 1946. This time, American forces land near Tokyo. The fighting is even worse. Tokyo has been fortified into a fortress. The Japanese military has had months to prepare. Soviet forces who declared war on Japan in August 1945 are now invading from the north, adding another layer of chaos. By summer 1946, Japan is finally collapsing. Tokyo falls in July. The emperor, who in our timeline surrendered in August 1945, finally does so in August 1946, exactly 1 year later. But the cost is staggering. American casualties exceed 500,000. Japanese military and civilian deaths reach 3 to 4 million. Entire cities are rubble from conventional bombing and ground fighting. If you're finding this alternate history fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. We explore these what-if scenarios every week, diving deep into how single decisions reshape entire timelines. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. So what does the post-war world look like in this timeline? Japan is devastated far beyond what happened in our timeline. The occupation lasts longer, not until 1952, but until the mid-1950s. Reconstruction is slower, more difficult. The economic miracle that turned Japan into an industrial powerhouse happens, but it's delayed by a decade. More importantly, the atomic bomb's role in history changes completely. In our world, Hiroshima and Nagasaki demonstrated nuclear weapons' horrific power. Everyone saw what these weapons could do, and it created a taboo against ever using them again. That taboo, that psychological barrier, helped prevent nuclear war during the Cold War. But in this timeline, nuclear weapons remain theoretical for most people. Yes, the bomb exists. America tested one in New Mexico in 1945, but it was never used in combat. It's just another weapon in the arsenal, not a civilization-ending horror that people have actually witnessed. This changes Cold War dynamics dramatically. When the Soviet Union develops its own atomic bomb in 1949, there's less fear, less understanding of what nuclear war really means. The arms race still happens, but the restraint that kept both sides from pushing the button might not exist. The Korean War in 1950 becomes incredibly dangerous. In our timeline, General MacArthur wanted to use nuclear weapons against China, but Truman refused, partly because everyone remembered Hiroshima. In this timeline, without that collective memory, the pressure to use tactical nukes in Korea is much stronger. There's a very real chance that nuclear weapons get used in combat sometime in the 1950s, not against cities, but against military targets. If that happens, the nuclear taboo shatters completely. Nuclear weapons become normalized as battlefield tools. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 becomes even more dangerous because leaders don't have the same visceral fear of nuclear consequences. American culture is different too. In our timeline, the atomic bomb shaped everything from Cold War anxiety to science fiction to anti-nuclear movements. In this timeline, those cultural touchstones don't exist the same way. There's no duck and cover drills haunting a generation of American schoolchildren. The bomb is feared, but it's not the defining terror of the age. Japan's relationship with nuclear weapons is completely different. In our timeline, Japan is the only nation ever attacked with atomic bombs, and that experience made it strongly anti-nuclear. In this timeline, Japan suffered through a grinding conventional invasion instead. Its post-war constitution still renounces war, but the psychological relationship with nuclear weapons is less absolute. The Soviet occupation of northern Japan creates long-term problems. In our timeline, the Soviets briefly occupied some small islands. In this timeline, with the war lasting longer and Soviet forces advancing further, they control Hokkaido and possibly parts of northern Honshu by the time Japan surrenders. Just like Germany and Korea, Japan gets divided. There's an American-backed South and a Soviet-backed North. The division might last until 1991, when the Soviet Union collapses. Here's the big question: is this world better or worse? On one hand, 120,000 people who died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki live full lives. The moral weight of being the only nation to use nuclear weapons in war doesn't exist for America. But on the other hand, millions more die in the extended invasion of Japan. American and Japanese casualties dwarf what happened in our timeline. And the nuclear future is far more dangerous. Without the stark example of Hiroshima burning, without that clear demonstration of nuclear horror, the world stumbles into the nuclear age more blindly. The chance of nuclear weapons being used again, possibly multiple times, is much higher. It's a haunting trade-off. Truman's decision to drop the atomic bombs was one of history's most controversial choices. But in preventing millions of deaths in an invasion and in demonstrating nuclear weapons horror so vividly that they've never been used in war again, maybe it was the lesser evil. What do you think? Was Truman right to drop the bombs, or would the invasion have been the more moral choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video made you think differently about history, smash that like button and share it with someone who loves diving deep into these tough questions. We've got more thought-provoking scenarios coming your way, so stay tuned.